All right, let's talk about something that can be a real headache for anyone who makes things on a computer, managing your work. Today, we're going to demystify Git and GitLab. And trust me, if you've ever felt that pit in your stomach from losing work or just being totally confused by file versions, you're about to meet your new best friend. Oh boy, I think we all know this image a little too well, right? You start with project_final. Then, of course, you have some feedback, so it becomes project_final_v2. And then there's the truly desperate project_reallyfinal.zip. We've all been there, just terrified of overwriting that one good idea we had 2 days ago. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. It's a universal pain. Doesn't matter if you're a developer, a writer, a designer, you name it. So let's give this a name. We'll call it the final_v2 problem. And the solution isn't about coming up with crazier file names. It's about a total shift in thinking. It's about learning how to stop worrying and actually love your project's history by using a system called version control. So what is version control, really? Well, the official kind of dry definition is that it's a system that records changes to your files over time. This means you can go back and look at any specific version later. Think of it less like a single file and more like a complete history book of your entire project. But let's be real, that's not the most exciting way to think about it. Here's a much better one. Imagine save as, but on steroids. Or even better, just think of it as a time machine for your project. Every time you save, you're not just overwriting something. You're creating a permanent checkpoint. You can jump back to any point in your project's history anytime you want. It's incredible. So, how does this time machine actually work? Well, that brings us to the first big name, Git. Git is your personal, local time machine. It's the tool that brings all this power and order right to your own computer. Now, the techie term for Git is a distributed version control system. And that word, distributed, is the magic ingredient. It just means that everyone working on the project has a full copy of its entire history on their own machine. You can work on a plane, in a basement, anywhere. And if some central server goes down, who cares? Nothing is lost. There is no single point of failure. Now, this might sound a little weird at first, but Git works with this brilliant 3-stage process. First, you've got your working directory. That's just your folder. It's where you do your work, edit your files, the usual. Then, when you've made a few changes you like, you move them to the staging area. I like to think of this as a waiting room, or maybe a shopping cart. You gather up all the related changes you want to save together. And finally, when you're ready, you commit. That takes a permanent snapshot of everything in your staging area and saves it to the repository, your project's untouchable history book. And to make all that happen, you really only need a few basic commands to get started. Git add is what you use to move your changes into that waiting room, the staging area. Git commit is the big one. It takes that permanent picture and saves it to your history, along with a little message from you explaining what you did. And Git status? That's your best friend. It's the command you run when you're feeling lost. It'll tell you exactly what's going on. Okay, so this is amazing, right? You've got this perfect time machine for your project on your own computer. But what if your computer breaks? Or what if you want to, actually work with other people? That's where GitLab comes in. GitLab is a home for your code. It's how you take that local project and put it in the cloud for backup and for teamwork. Now, let's pause for a second because this is probably the biggest point of confusion for beginners. Git versus GitLab. What's the difference? It's simple. Git is the tool. It's the software on your computer, the engine that tracks all the changes. GitLab is the service. It's the website, the platform that hosts your Git projects so you can share them. One works offline, the other needs the internet to connect you with your team. But you know what? Here's the analogy that makes it all click. If Git is the powerful engine of a car, GitLab is the entire factory. The factory is built around that engine, sure, but it also gives you the assembly lines, the quality control checks, the shipping department, the whole shebang. It's a complete platform to manage your project, and getting your project up there is basically a 3-step launch sequence. First, you go to GitLab's website and create a new empty project. That's your destination. Then, back on your computer, you tell your local folder, hey, here's the web address for our new home. And finally, you just push all the commits, all that history you've saved, up to the cloud. And boom, your local time machine is now backed up and ready to collaborate. So now for the really cool part. With our code safely on GitLab, how do we work with a team without stepping on each other's toes? The answer is a super common and safe workflow called the fork and pull request model. It's how the pros do it. And it all kicks off with something called a fork. A fork is exactly what it sounds like. It's your own personal copy of someone else's project. You basically click a button and you get a complete replica in your own account. It's a totally safe sandbox where you can mess around, experiment, and try out new ideas without any fear of breaking the original project. This workflow is a beautiful, safe circle. First, you fork the main project to get your own copy. Then, and this is important, you clone your copy down to your computer to work on it. You do your thing, make your edits, commit your changes locally. Then you push those changes back up to your fork on GitLab. And then, here's the grand finale, you open a pull request. That's just a formal way of saying, hey, original project owner, I did some cool stuff over here. Would you like to review it and pull my changes into the main project? Okay, I know that was a lot of concepts. So let's just boil it all down. Let's talk about the simple, everyday cycle that you're going to use over and over and over again until it's just pure muscle memory.
This is your daily rhythm. This is the dance. You always start with git pull. That grabs any new changes from the team. Then you do your work, modify your files. When you're ready, you git add the changes to your shopping cart. You git commit them to your local history with a nice, clear message. And finally, you git push to share your work with everyone else. Pull, modify, add, commit, push. That's the loop.
Seriously, if you take away just one habit from this entire explainer, please let it be this one. The #1 rule for a happy life with Git. Before you start any new work, before you write a single line of code, just run git pull. It prevents so many problems and ensures you're always working on the latest version of the project. So let's wrap this all up. What did we learn? Git is your local tool, your personal time machine, and you use it with add and commit. GitLab is the remote platform, the central hub for your team, and you sync with it using pull and push. For teamwork, you use the safe method of forks and pull requests. You've basically gone from being scared of that save button to having a complete searchable history of your entire project. So the whole final V2 problem, it's gone. It's a thing of the past. You now literally have a time machine for your work. You can experiment without fear, you can rewind mistakes, and you can collaborate with anyone, anywhere in the world. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with it?